Hi everyone, my name is Courtney Cochran and I manage the EcoLeaders program and online community at National Wildlife Federation. I'm really excited to be here with you all today to moderate this college track session titled Next Steps, Finding Apprenticeships, Mentorships, and Service Learning Opportunities. In this session, our panelists will discuss how students and young leaders can find and make the most of apprenticeships, mentorships, and service learning opportunities as a way to position themselves to create a meaningful career. We'll begin by introducing the speakers and then ask each of them to share a bit about the programs that they represent and to give their advice for today's students. But before we start, we would like to do a quick poll for the audience. So if you could take a minute and answer the question, what do you consider the most important benefit of having a professional mentor? Great. Looks like the winner is help in identifying career options and goals. So that's great. Good to know. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. We'll start today with Quinn Walker. Quinn is originally from Northern California. He's both an AmeriCorps alumni and Peace Corps alumni, having served in the Republic of Moldova. Quinn holds a BS in Public Management from Plymouth State University in New Hampshire. He's also in his last semester at the University of Southern California, getting his master's degree in Public Administration. And Quinn currently works as the Community Relations Specialist with the AmeriCorps National Civilian Community Corps. His duties include recruitment, engaging elected officials, and building public and private partnerships. In his free time, Quinn enjoys hiking with his dog, listening to podcasts, and spending time with friends. So Quinn, if you could tell us about the opportunities that AmeriCorps offers, and as an alum of both AmeriCorps and Peace Corps, why you chose to incorporate these type of programs into your own personal career path.
Perfect. Thank you, Courtney. And just to clarify, is this the time where I would show some slides speaking about AmeriCorps as well?
Yep.
Perfect.
Yep, that'd be great.
Yeah, okay, great. So thank you everyone for joining us. And I know a lot of you are coming at different stages in your career path, be it coming straight out of high school or coming out of college. And I just think back to when I was graduating high school. I was 18 years old and I was kind of presented with three paths, right? You can go directly into the workforce, you can go directly into college, or you can go in maybe to the military is another option. But there's a fourth path that I was really lucky to hear about and has benefited me quite a bit, and that's an AmeriCorps. And so essentially it's like a gap year where for 10 months of your life you can serve your country working in a variety of service projects all across the country. And so when I was 18, I did a new AmeriCorps program called City Year that took me out to New Hampshire. I had never left the state of California before, and I got to work on a team of diverse young people from all across the country, working in after-school programming and learned so much more about myself, got money for college, had this adventure where I got to travel and learn about different parts of the country. And I was so much more prepared for my undergrad experience having done AmeriCorps first. And I also had a lot more money for college because they give you an education award of around $6,500. And then my university that I applied to actually matched that scholarship award, which is pretty common for AmeriCorps programs nowadays. So I'm going to speak to you a little bit about AmeriCorps and CCC. I don't want to do death by PowerPoint or anything like that. I'll just go through about 4 or 5 slides. But the program, the AmeriCorps program I'm speaking about today, is very unique because it's a team-based program where you actually travel across the country with a group of your peers, anywhere from 18 to 26 years old, all across the country, working on a variety of short-term, high-impact national service projects. So for example, to start out your service, you may be 3 months in Joshua Tree National Park doing trail maintenance and ecological restoration with Joshua Tree. When that 3 months is over, you may travel to northern Montana where you work for Habitat for Humanity building houses for 3 months. Once that is over, you may be flying to Hawaii and working in an after-school program with the Boys and Girls Club, or working for a nonprofit that services, works with underserved unhoused individuals, for example. So you have this diverse experience where you work in a variety of different capacities throughout the year. So I'll go ahead and just share a couple of slides here. Let me do that. Okay. It looks like I'm not having that. Okay, here it goes. And Courtney, do you mind letting me know if you can see the screen okay?
Yep, I can see it.
Perfect. So AmeriCorps NCCC, the mission is to strengthen communities and develop leaders through team-based national and community service, right? So I spoke a little bit about this already. It's a 10 to 12 month, depending on the track that you choose, full-time national service program for 18 to 26-year-olds, where you travel across the country in teams, helping communities meet critical needs. So we have four base camps, essentially, one in Sacramento, one in Denver, Colorado, one in Vinton, Iowa, and one in Vicksburg, Mississippi. That's where you do your training, but then you travel literally anywhere across the country. Typically, you would travel within one of these different regions, either the red region, the orange region, the yellow, or the blue. But recently, because of all the national disasters and COVID-19 response, our teams are really going all over the country. So again, just to kind of recap, it's 3 rounds of service. It's approximately 2 to 3 months each round, and you work with a variety of different service organizations in a variety of different sectors throughout the course of your service year. So we have 5 focus areas: urban and rural development, infrastructure improvement, energy conservation, natural disaster response, and environmental conservation and stewardship. And we work with a variety of sponsors that could be nonprofits like food banks, Habitat for Humanity. We also work with schools. We work with federal agencies, state and national parks. And we do a lot of disaster response building. So right now we actually have quite a few of our AmeriCorps teams administering and helping run COVID-19 vaccination centers all across the country. So they act as medical scribes. They do check-in, check-out, registration, site setup, site teardown. So AmeriCorps NCCC is really unique in that they have a lot of flexibility to respond to disasters where needed. So if you ever heard about the Camp Fire up in Paradise, California, that destroyed a whole town, we've had several teams that have gone into Paradise to help that community rebuild after fire disaster. That's the same circumstances after flooding in the Gulf Coast or tornadoes in the Midwest. AmeriCorps NCCC does a lot of disaster response. We do a lot of construction of affordable housing. We do a lot of environmental projects. I know a lot of you are interested in that. Do a lot of tree planting, building trails, removing invasive species and unwanted plants. We also do just a lot of infrastructure improvement in general. With COVID-19, like kind of shutting down a lot of summer camps this past summer, a lot of those camps are in need of infrastructure repair. So a lot of our teams are working on making sure that camps are able to safely host, hopefully able to safely host campers this summer. We have a lot of specialty teams, ones that work directly with Bureau of Land Management doing trail maintenance and environmental projects. We have a specialty team that does just fire disaster response and recovery, so they actually become certified wildland firefighters. So that's a great opportunity. I'm going to be telling you a bunch of things. I know I only have a minute or two left, but we have just a lot of opportunities. I want to briefly just touch on another one, FEMA Core. It's exactly the same program that I've just been speaking about, except for instead of traveling and partnering with different nonprofits and government agencies, you just work with FEMA. So if any of you have a passion for emergency management, this would be a great opportunity for you. And I can touch more on that in the Q&A session. So the benefits, it's completely free program, $6,495 education award after completing the program, but it's completely free. We pay for your housing, your living expenses. If you have undergrad student loans, we'll defer those loans. If you're coming out of high school and you're looking to get money for college or get money for graduate school, this is a great opportunity. And it's just a great resume booster. I mean, especially if you're trying to get a job within the nonprofit sector or the government sector, having a year of AmeriCorps service really can set you apart as a candidate. And because we do so much environmental work, you could really gain some of those necessary environmental skills that you may be looking to get before applying to future career positions. Eligibility requirements. If you want to do FEMA Core, you do have to be a U.S. citizen, but you can be a green card holder or a naturalized resident to do the traditional AmeriCorps and CCC experience. So that's pretty much, I'll stop my sharing my screen here. But really what I would say is the best benefits of the program is just the ability to travel across the country as a team and partner with so many different types of nonprofit and government organizations. You get exposure to a lot of different work sectors and different career paths. And so if you're still kind of on the fence on exactly what career you want to go into or the path you want to take, NCCC is a great way to gain experience prior to making those decisions.
Awesome.
Hopefully I didn't ramble too much.
No, you're great. That's such a great overview, and what a valuable opportunity for folks, like you said, trying to figure out what direction they want to go. It's a great opportunity to get in there and kind of get your hands dirty and also really be at the front line of addressing some real needs on the ground. So thank you so much for sharing with us about that. Next, we're going to turn over to our next speaker, Sean. Sean McCusty is Alignment Director with the Virginia Department of Labor and Industries Division of Registered Apprenticeship, and his current role as a member of the Commonwealth's Apprenticeship Future Talent Craft Project Team. His efforts center on identifying existing resources in the workforce system and leveraging those resources to create and expand opportunities for registered apprenticeship. The desired outcomes are a greater number of registered apprentices, expansion of registered apprenticeship into non-traditional industries, and the increased access to registered apprenticeship opportunities for underserved populations across the Commonwealth of Virginia. Prior to joining the Virginia Department of Labor and Industry, Sean had worked for local workforce boards as part of Virginia's Rapid Response Team and as a business development manager for the V2V American Apprenticeship Initiative grant. Sean previously held senior leadership positions with both for-profit and nonprofit organizations in financial services, healthcare, and digital marketing. Sean is a native of Central Virginia and received his BA in economics from Hampton-Sydney College. Thanks so much for being with us, Sean. I hope you can tell us a bit about the opportunities that participating in a registered apprenticeship offer. And since our audience come from all across the country, what advice would you give to interested students in other states outside of Virginia as well?
Great. Thank you very much, Courtney. And Quinn, thanks for that great overview of what you're involved in. I think that is very impressive. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here and just go through a few slides because I want to make sure that everybody understands exactly what registered apprenticeship is, because it is a very specific thing versus just generically talking about an apprentice. So registered apprenticeship offers a rewarding financial and financially successful career, a wide variety of occupations, and they're always going to be in occupations that are in demand. That's very important as you look at. I know that some of you here are maybe thinking of starting your new careers or changing careers. Looking for where your skills are going to be in demand is a critical way to put stability into your career trajectory. So registered apprenticeship is pretty much going to guarantee that that's the situation. Just a little registered apprenticeship 101. Apprenticeship has been around for centuries. European apprentices began in the 1600s. But in the United States, this has been since the late 30s. Registered apprenticeship is a voluntary program. So apprentices enter into the apprenticeship voluntarily, and the employers and sponsors run those programs voluntarily. There are over 1,200 occupations that are apprenticeable in the United States, and more occupations are being added all the time. And they range across every conceivable industry. So everything from barbers and nail technicians to cybersecurity specialists and application developers. So really there are not many occupations that do not have some possibility of being apprenticed. So keep that in mind. Employers create these programs because they have a training need, and I'll explain to you how apprenticeship fills that need. But that's the purpose of apprenticeship, is to train individuals into the skills required to do their jobs. And registered apprenticeship always means you're employed. So anyone who's a registered apprentice is working either a full-time or part-time job during that apprenticeship. Whoops, sorry. All registered apprenticeships have 5 elements. There's always going to be an employer. As I just mentioned, when you're an apprentice, you are working in a job. So there's an employer that's sponsoring that program. The second piece is they're structured on the job training. So you're going to be doing work just like every other employee of the company, but you're going to be doing that under the direction of a mentor who has that skill set already developed and can help you kind of navigate your way to developing those skills on the job. The third piece is there's always going to be some type of related training and instruction, or related technical instruction is how it's often referred to. That can take place pretty much from any training provider. It can be a local community college. It can be online, which is where a lot of that training is taking place right now due to the situation with COVID. It can also be training that's done by employees of the company you work for after hours or in other locations. All registered apprenticeships come with a wage scale increase schedule. So as you develop new skills on the job and develop new or take training in those related technical classes, your wages increase. So all during the course of your apprenticeship, you are making more money the more skills you gain. And then the final piece that all registered apprenticeships have is a nationally recognized credential. It's a journey workers credential. So if you do complete a registered apprenticeship in Virginia and you're an electrician or you're a cybersecurity analyst or whatever your occupation might be, and you end up needing to move to another part of the country, your credential is accepted everywhere in the United States, recognizing that you have competency in that occupation. So that's a valuable piece. Most of the time you'll find after you've completed an apprenticeship, a lot of times you'll just stay with the company you're in because you are so well suited to that position by that point that it's a great fit. You really need to find a really good reason to move out of that. Just a few requirements. Employers define their own programs. So some of them have some prerequisites. They may have time and job, or they may have some education requirements, but typically they're not too overbearing because apprenticeships are designed to take people who don't have highly developed skills, who don't have extended work experiences, and bring them into a very structured program that develops those skills and gets them that experience during that apprenticeship time. So when that apprenticeship is completed, they're fully competent. There is a 16-year-old age requirement. That's more related to safety issues and OSHA requirements. As I mentioned before, apprentices are going to be working either full-time or part-time, depending on how that job is structured. So your ability to have flexibility in the schedule is there depending on the program. And then the main requirement is really you need to have the ability to learn and master the job. If it's something that you're interested in, if you show the aptitude and the right attitude, you'll be very successful within a registered apprenticeship program. Some of the benefits, Quinn talked about getting money for education through the programs that he was involved in. Apprenticeship is a little bit different. They're not giving you money to go out and find your own education. They're paying you for the education that's relevant to the job you're doing. So while you're an apprentice and taking those classes, typically your employer is paying for that instruction. So you're not incurring any debt, but you're still developing those skills. And they're going to be in-demand skills, as I mentioned. They are relevant to the job. There's no fluff within an apprenticeship curriculum. It is all specifically related to the work that you're doing. And then once again, as I mentioned, that nationally recognized journey worker status that really gives you mobility to move pretty much anywhere within the country, depending on how you might want to pursue that. So now a little more down in the weeds, kind of nuts and bolts information. As I mentioned, apprenticeships can apply to almost every industry and almost every occupation that you can think of. So one way to figure out kind of where you are and what your skill set is, or where your interests might be in terms of developing a skill set, is to have a resource to look at if you're interested in being this example I have here, if you can read that, is for a data scientist. And I just picked that as an example. ONET Online is a resource that has gathered all comprehensive occupation data together and talks about the tasks that are related to a specific occupation, the detailed work activities, what the work environment is like, what type of credentials you will develop or would need to have to be successful in that occupation, the wages you can expect to earn, and what the employment horizon is for that specific occupation, and then even lead you to specific job openings. I have this link at the end on my resource slide, but you can just Google ONET Online and you'll find it very easily. This is a great way to kind of take your concept of what you want to do. I want to be a firefighter, or I want to be an EMT, or I want to be an environmental scientist. Whatever that occupation is, search for that and you will get not just that occupation, but occupations that are related to that. So there may be things that you come across that you didn't realize were related to the skill sets you want to develop, or that might provide you an opportunity. So these is an excellent resource for doing that. And then really advice that I would give to people. I've been fortunate or unfortunate enough. I'm actually on my 11th job within my career right now, and that ranged across healthcare and digital marketing and financial services and now workforce development. I would have never considered myself in this position 10 or 15 years ago. But my advice to everybody who's out there today is be proactive about what you want to do. Use a resource like ONET, educate yourself about the full scope of what your interests can entail, and then contact companies that provide those types of opportunities, whether they've got a job posted or not. Reach out to them, find people that are doing the job that you want to do. Look for them on LinkedIn, find them and make contact with them and ask them to mentor you. Don't be shy about making that contact. The worst they can do is tell you no or not respond to you. But a lot of times people that take pride in their occupation, take pride in the work that they do, are happy to help other people understand the complexity of that and bring them into that opportunity as a colleague potentially, or at least provide advice on how to make that career happen for them. So finally, this is the link for ONET, and then the Department of Labor, its page on apprenticeship provides a lot of background information and resources for preparing yourself to become an apprentice if that's the opportunity that you're looking to pursue. So happy to answer questions when we get to that point, and look forward to being a resource to anybody that needs me.
Thanks so much, Sean. Super valuable information and a nice peek into the apprenticeship opportunities that are out there. Thanks so much. So now hear from Mariah Davis. Mariah currently serves as Acting Director of Choose Clean Water Coalition. Mariah manages outreach, grassroots advocacy, and civic engagement efforts to support the coalition's policy priorities. Mariah coordinates conservation organization efforts in Maryland, Virginia, Pennsylvania, Delaware, New York, West Virginia, and the District of Columbia. And this includes working with conservation organizations at the local, state, and regional level to enact sound state policies to ensure progress in the Chesapeake Bay restoration effort. As an active member in the Chesapeake community, she's deeply committed to efforts that foster diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice, about environmental justice issues, and played an active role in the formation of Virginia's Advisory Council on Environmental Justice, established by Governor McAuliffe. She served as a founding board member of Annapolis Pride and chaired the city's first Pride Parade Festival. Mariah is a graduate of the Congressional Black Caucus Institute's Political Leadership Program. In 2020, she earned her master's degree in public management from the University of Maryland, and in 2020, she earned her bachelor's degree in environmental studies with a minor degree from Virginia Commonwealth University. So, Mariah, you run an organized mentorship program, but I know that you have also had mentors yourself that came about organically. Can you tell us about the program you run and touch on both the informal and formal mentorship arrangements?
Sure, I'd be happy to, and thank you, Courtney, and to NWF for having me here today. Sean kind of set this up nicely and gave some really good advice about being proactive, which is definitely something that I would second, and I'll talk more in a little bit. But you know, I've seen very little scientific studies out there about both informal and formal mentorship, which are two very separate things. But they are, and very beneficial, and they've played a very significant role in my own professional development and personal development over the years. Oftentimes, informal mentors can be your peers, they can be your sports coaches, they can be your family members, your teachers, your professors, any type of figure that you look up to that's in your immediate or your personal circle. These are all people that can become your informal mentors that you can develop over the years. But I've had a few different informal mentors that have served in a variety of capacities. I played competitive sports growing up and had mentors that were coaches to me who taught me the importance of discipline, teamwork, working hard, and all of those regimen types of things, and leadership and perseverance, and all of these types of skill sets have been able to also transfer into my, not just my personal growth, but into my professional career as well. So all of these little types of life lessons are things that you can find in informal mentors and people who are already in your personal life. One mentor that I had was a professor named Dr. Eric Hayes, and he taught chemistry at a community college that I went to in Virginia. And he had a very special interest in me and my learning. He was always very friendly and passionate about setting his students up for success. And I was 19 at the time. I had no clue what I wanted to do as far as my career goes, but I recognized that Dr. Hayes was somebody who really believed in me and wanted me to excel. So I named him as one of my informal mentors, and he is somebody who I still have a great relationship with and I keep up with. But he's somebody who gave me really good advice that I stuck with and I carried with me and ended up being pretty beneficial. But he told me, he said, Mariah, you're a young, smart Black woman, and you're in STEM, you're in science related fields. When you go to VCU, which is where I got my undergraduate degree, he said, look out for those opportunities that are out there for you, because they exist. And so, when I got to VCU, I didn't find right away that those opportunities existed, and that I had to create those opportunities for myself, which was also some really great advice that he gave me. But one great thing just about my informal mentorship relationship with Dr. Hayes is that, in keeping in touch with him, he was able to give me recommendations. He gave me a recommendation to go study abroad in Central America. And even when I applied for my master's degree, he was there and gave me a recommendation for that. So, my advice there is just to continue to look within your own network to see who's already there, who can provide you with this sort of expert advice. But in regards to more formal mentorship, since I've been working with the Choose Clean Water Coalition, I've had the opportunity to run a program that actually matches mentees and mentors together based on their shared interest and goals. This program is very specific to the region that I work in, which is the Chesapeake Bay watershed. So if you're somebody and you know that you work and you live in the Chesapeake Bay watershed, and you have an interest in environmental science, and you're looking for a job and you're looking for a mentor, please reach out to me. I'd love to find hopefully a mentor for you who can lead you and guide you with some of this professional advice as you go into your career. But one thing I want to touch on that's very specific to this program is that formal mentorship is especially important for people of color, people who identify as Black, Indigenous, who are working and still facing a glass ceiling that, still exists. What we call it here in the environmental field is a green ceiling, because the environmental field has a huge problem when it comes to there being a lack of representation of people of color in leadership positions. So you'll start to see once you get into your careers that when it comes to the board level and the executive level and the manager level, there's less and less people who look like me. So these programs, mentorship, informal mentorship are really imperative and critical if you are somebody who's marginalized and does continue to kind of face these power struggles that still exist within our career field. But there are, of course, opportunities to advance and excel in your career, but specifically to this program that we have, our Young Professionals of Color program, we're providing customized trainings and professional development opportunities that are specifically there to empower and encourage young people of color to move up into their leadership levels. So by working with a mentor and going through some of our trainings, you'll be able to learn skill sets that are going to allow you to overcome microaggressions and imposter syndrome and advocate for more inclusionary programs in your organizations if those are things that you're looking for. This is also a space that helps to build camaraderie and also allows you to build some confidence in yourself in going throughout the program. But again, this is very specific to our work in the Chesapeake, and I'd encourage, if there's other people on this call who are interested in mentorship, you can create a program of this like your own in your own region. And I'll drop a link in the chat to give you an idea about our program. If you're interested, just reach out to me.
Thank you so much, Mariah. That's really valuable information and personal insight from your own journey. So thank you so much for sharing that. I think that's kind of thinking about the informal versus the formal mentorships is important. And I think sometimes folks can tend to overlook some of those informal mentorships and not necessarily recognize them for what they are. So it's important to take note of kind of who's in your corner and how you can continue to tap into those people who are rooting for you. So now we're going to switch to Q&A. Quinn, I saw you already answered a few in the chat box, so thanks so much for that. We have a couple more, so I'll go ahead and read those out. One is the types of programs that you all have spoken about range in their goals, processes, benefits, etc., but they all contribute to supporting folks as they embark on and continue their career pathways. So beyond these opportunities, what advice do you have for young people who are about to start their first career in an economy rocked by a pandemic and recession? And this is open to any of you.
I'll be happy to go ahead and jump in first on that one. One of the things, and this I think applies to any environment, but even more so in this environment we're in now, is two things: flexibility and patience. There are a lot of people who see opportunities that they would like to have, but they're just not available to them right now. So don't give up on that. Don't always expect to go from point A to point B in a straight line. Certainly not in your work career. So have some flexibility around looking to make a tactical move that still supports your strategic goal of moving in a specific direction. And then be patient. Those things aren't going to happen overnight. Opportunities are available if you keep your eyes open for them. But don't get discouraged when you're looking for jobs. Like I said, I've had 11. I've probably been told no more than anybody I know in terms of my career progression. So don't take those things personally. In the environment where HR people are making selections for who they can interview and who they can hire, they are overwhelmed in a lot of circumstances. So never consider the inability to get an interview or the inability to find, or, to get a job that has anything to do with your qualifications or your abilities. Don't let that impact your self-esteem and your image of yourself, because that needs to stay positive in order for you to be successful.
Great advice. Mariah or Quinn, do you have anything to chime in on that one?
Yeah, and I think those are all really great things that you've said, Sean. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. I've been rejected plenty myself. I remember being like 18 years old, and I had only taken a few science courses, but I was really eager to get out there and to learn with the very limited knowledge that I had, but I had a willingness to be open and to learn. And I ended up emailing like 15 different environmental organizations and got told no by most of them, but a few of them did give me a chance to just come in and learn and volunteer with them. So don't be afraid to put yourself out there, which I know can be really hard, but do it. Nobody's going to know that that's what you're interested in if you don't make the ask. So that's my second piece of advice: make the ask, tell people what you want, and keep advocating for yourself and keep hustling. Be kind and open to everybody that you meet. You never know when that person can be your future boss or when you might be their future boss. And I've seen it happen a lot. So continue to use your networks, your peers, your professors. I've gotten a few different internships talking with my friends' parents or talking with my professors in the past. And yeah, is a powerful tool. Sean mentioned LinkedIn. Don't be afraid to add us on LinkedIn or to reach out to people like us. I see job opportunities in my inbox every single day. So utilize your networks, keep building your networks, and keep seeking opportunities and going to things like this.
Yeah, and I don't want to be too repetitive. Mariah and Sean spoke very eloquently with this question, but yeah, I mean, I think to the point of just sometimes things are not so linear, right? Like there were moments in my life where I had this vision of, okay, I'm going to go and graduate at this time. I'm going to go straight into this program, and then I'm going to get this job, and then I'm going to do my best to leverage these opportunities to do this. And I think if you pigeonhole yourself in there, you can actually do yourself a disservice. And I think that's just kind of speaking to what we're all doing. Is there's so many opportunities out there, and ones that you may have never discovered or heard about. And so just doing research and being open to taking advantage of something that wasn't already premeditated and thought out, because those can open up so many doors for you. I never thought I was going to do an AmeriCorps program until it happened, and then that set me on a totally different trajectory of service and everything that career-wise where I've gotten to is all because of this one choice, which wasn't something that I expected to do at that time. And then my other my other suggestion is just, and this goes back to what Mariah was just saying, but just keep relationships, keep those relationships close. I can't, I'm so grateful that as I've gone through like applying to graduate school, and I realized like I needed these recommendation letters, or I needed something for somebody in the past to do something for me, be it writing a recommendation or helping me with a resume, or those relationships are so key. And so it may not seem like your high school teacher now or your college professor from freshman year or sophomore year or whatever that time period of your life is. If you felt like you had a connection and you had a good working relationship with them, invest in those relationships and keep in touch with those individuals, because down the road those relationships will pay a lot of dividends.
Yeah, super important advice. And it looks like we just had a question come in the chat box, which is related to the last one we had in the queue. So I'll go ahead and read Mary's out loud. Do any of you have different or specific advice for us who are looking to change careers to an environmental? I've been in the workplace for 30+ years and I'm looking to find opportunities that value my past experiences, even though not necessarily in the environmental field.
Yeah, I have a, I guess one key thing, Mary, take a look at your resume and your work experience and try to identify some of those transferable skill sets that you have. If you've got 30+ years of experience, so if you have experience working in teams, collaborating with others, completing projects in a timely manner, fundraising, managing people, managing a staff, those are all hugely important transferable skills that you can take to any career that you have, and they're all very desirable for people who are working in our industry especially. But I would try to take a look at your resume and make sure that you glean into some of those skill sets that I just had and others that you do have, to make sure that those are being highlighted and they're necessarily being pigeonholed in some of the language that you're using, but try to just make those experiences come through. And then again, just being open to learn. A lot of the issue areas, I believe, when it comes to the environment are things that you can learn over time, over 2 or 3 months, and gaining your expertise in an issue area. But that's just my 2 cents there.
Yeah, I would definitely echo what Mariah said there about looking at, and once again, ONET is a great way to kind of get your language consistent around these things. If you look at ONET for the occupation or the work that you've been doing and identify what skills and tasks and things are related to that, and then compare that to what is required for the opportunity that you're looking to move into, you'll find that there are a lot of similarities in the language that's used, and Mariah gave a lot of great examples about the skills that you need. And think about that skill set for any occupation as kind of a pyramid. And at the bottom of that pyramid are the foundational skills that you need for any job: communication, teamwork, project management, time management, those kind of things. And as you become more specifically skilled in an occupation, those skills narrow down. And when you get to the very top of that pyramid, that skill set is only relevant to that occupation. So where are you within the occupation you currently are in that pyramid? And where does that transfer over into the pyramid for the other occupation you're looking at? And then once again, the flexibility to be willing to learn the skills or get the experience that fills that gap is what those employers in anywhere are looking for. Somebody who's willing to come to work every day, is willing to be part of the team, willing to do what it takes to learn new skills and get the experience to do the job well. That's what's going to make you successful. And don't, like I said, I've changed careers many times. I know it can be a daunting task, but it can be done, and you can be successful.
That's great advice. And it looks like we have one more question. from the Q&A box, what tips do you have for keeping in touch and engaging with previous professors and teachers who you may not see as often anymore?
Yeah, I mean, so this is kind of going back to some of the advice that I shared. How I did that was through life updates. Honestly, I knew that was going to be something that was going to be important, and so I'm getting a little bit of an echo. I'm not sure if that's on me, but I just realized that every year or so, I would just send that professor an email with just an update and saying, hey, this is what I've been up to, this is what I'm working on, and then just reiterate the gratitude that I had from whatever experience I had with that person. So if it was something that I learned in the class or a trip that they were leading that I got to go on, whatever that might have been, just keeping the relationship alive that way. LinkedIn would be another example that Mariah and Sean mentioned. But yeah, I think through email, I mean, through social media, I don't know if it's appropriate depending on the situation, but now as an adult, having already graduated from undergrad, I stay in contact with former professors on social media as well.
I would second that. You'd be amazed at how many people really do pay attention to your social media if you're friends with your professors or people in your professional network on there. But also, I guess we're in a COVID time, but pre-COVID, one thing I would do every time I came home from college was just to kind of drop in and to see my professors in person and just say, hey, how you doing? And very similar to what Quinn said, and just give them some life updates about what I'm doing. So you can do it via email, you can do it via LinkedIn, social media, you can do it in person, but it's really, I think, just starting up a conversation, making it small or long, and checking in with them and make it personal, and be personable. I'm sure it's kind of awkward and daunting, especially if you're just going to them like with a favor, like be polite, ask how they're doing, and just try to make conversation.
And I would just say, adding on to that, the individuals who are in the academic community, they gauge their success by their students' success. So if you come and fill them in on what you've been doing and how you progressed since you last saw them, that means something to them. They take pride in the fact that you have taken the knowledge that they helped you gain in their class and you've done something with it. Or maybe you haven't done anything specifically with that, but you have really progressed from where you were the last time you spoke with them. That's valuable to them, and so that they typically are interested in hearing that you are being successful, or that you're still seeing them as a resource for assisting you in doing things. And yeah, I would say certainly don't be afraid to make those contacts and be proactive about doing it.
Absolutely. I think that's all great advice. Making that connection or connecting back to your relationship with that person previously to kind of help jog their memory and, like you said, make them feel good about the role that they played in your life is super important. Looks like we have time for maybe one more question, and one came in asking, what green career field do you expect to see boom in the next 5 years?
I guess that's a pretty broad question. I guess just my quick inclination about that. Climate change and addressing climate change is becoming a bigger and bigger thing, especially for this presidential administration. So you're going to start to see over the next 5 to 10 years, states coming out with policies and recommendations to reduce the carbon emissions, which is going to happen in a bunch of different sectors, from transportation to water quality to restoration. It's going to happen in a variety of different ways. Renewables, looking into renewables and green jobs, I think are going to be a way and a pathway to the future.
one initiative that's just beginning to pick up speed in Virginia is all around the offshore wind project that's going to be taking place, and that project will have a ripple effect out across a wide variety of industries and skill sets that are required to do that. And in the same vein as that, the solar industry in Virginia is also expanding rapidly. So, and that's a wide-ranging industry that has a variety of different occupations associated with it and skill sets required. So, just from projects that I'm involved with now, those are probably two of the biggest ones.
Yeah, at the macro level, I'm not entirely sure what that looks like, but from AmeriCorps standpoint, I know that more and more of our projects are catering to environmental sustainability and combating climate change. There's actually talk that CNCS, which is the government agency that administers AmeriCorps, is thinking about creating even a climate corps. So essentially an AmeriCorps sub-program that's just working on environmental sustainability projects. And I've seen over the past few years working for AmeriCorps and CCC that we've been more and more focused on environmental restoration, on retrofitting homes to become more efficient, to more efficiently use energy. All that's becoming more and more common.
Yeah, that's super helpful and great insight. So I think that does it for the Q&A. Thank you all so much for your great questions and your great answers. I think you have a lot of really valuable information to chew on and think about and act on. So thank you, Quinn, Mariah, and Sean, for being here with us today and sharing your expertise. I want to encourage folks to conversation if they're interested in the College Lounge, and would invite our speakers to head over there as well if you're available. And then the next session on the main stage will be Careers in Journalism. So I will see you there in a few minutes, but thank you all for your time, and hope to stay in touch.